Friends, welcome to this presentation on Introduction to E-Learning within the course Design and Facilitation of E-Learning courses. I'm Professor Panda. I'll be presenting you different concepts that are involved: e-learning, distinguishable from online learning, virtual learning, mobile learning, and certainly from distance learning. But all are related terms, and in the process all converge together because of convergence of technology today. Friends, that you see on your screen that we have already presented in another program by Professor Murthy on distance learning, the two-way mediated communication, the teaching learning strategies involved in that, the guided didactic conversation, and the industrialized system of education, and the importance of dialogue, structure, and independence or autonomy, learner autonomy in teaching learning at a distance. You have also seen the generations of distance education, the correspondence model, the multiple media model, the teleteaching model, flexible learning, and intelligent flexible learning. Online learning starts with teleteaching and flexible learning and proceeds further to the situation that we are today. That you will also visualize that in the process for quite some time we had interactive multimedia, print, audio, video, graphics, animation built into one, what is called a CD-ROM, and how CD-ROM was facilitating as a multimedia facilitating for complex learning. For instance, the solar system. We developed, for instance, interactive multimedia has advantage over print in many ways that you see on your screen, and you must have realized while using interactive multimedia within and outside the classroom that how it facilitates the teacher as well as extends the print further for better understanding. I'll be just presenting in the next screen that one of the programs that we did for EFA or Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan for development of interactive multimedia CD-ROM for English, Science, Mathematics and Social Studies in Gurumukhi for Punjab State, for instance. In these the interactive multimedia is the blue corner that you see, that all these inputs including quizzes, they were available. There was a CD-ROM, and the CD-ROM was facilitated by the teachers, and the facilitation was done through teacher training who could best use the multimedia within the classroom, but the students could also use these for individual self-learning. The whole idea was that how best the classroom facilitation would be done, motivation would increase, and students will be engaging themselves in learning. Friends, I must underline one thing in learning, that student engagement is extremely essential, both individual as well as group engagement is extremely essential insofar as learning is concerned. So, engagement in learning is very important, and interactive multimedia development is one of the developments in technology based teaching and learning, and extending these we will proceed to describe what is called online learning and e-learning. I must give a few explanations for your clarity, because on-campus education is basically the physical interaction between students and teachers, and there is contiguity. They read at the same place, same time, real time. It is argued often that because one is face to face, one doesn't find enough space to reflect while learning, and therefore after classroom reflection contributes to more learning than while within the classroom. This being a limitation in distance learning, this is addressed, that one finds a lot of space for one's own individual reflection and reflection within groups if occasion permits, and therefore distance learning facilitates, extends face-to-face learning to a situation, and distance learning also includes face-to-face interaction, hands-on experience, and so on and so forth. Online learning is a terminology that we use that when learning takes place online through the web or the internet. And therefore, if it is e-learning, and e-learning is the wider term, I must say, the e-learning is any kind of use of information and communication technology to enhance learning. Whether it is a use of audio video materials, whether it is a use of teleconferencing, audio conferencing, and so on and so forth, including online learning and virtual learning. So, any kind of electronic use for teaching and learning would entail e-learning. So, online learning, distance learning, all these they fall into what is the wider term of e-learning. There is also blended learning that you see, basically a blending of face-to-face and technology enhanced learning together the design would be such that if these are judiciously combined together, we would call that a blended learning. We will see details of this in this program. And the mobile learning is basically e-learning through the use of mobile devices. And mobile devices today are 4G. They combine internet, computing and telecommunication together. Friends, what you see on your screen is the historical development of technology based learning, including open and distance learning that we are today. So we started with correspondence education, and we reached a stage that today that we are using what is called blended learning. Blended learning is differently used by different people. Blended learning is used by face-to-face education, blended learning is used by distance education. Blending is also done in online and e-learning context, and including mobile learning. So this is a historical development that you see, and today we are proceeding more towards what is called a 4G, 3D and a kind of platform that software that we use today. You must have seen the film Avatar, the Avatar software that we use today to introduce a 3D based learning. Many universities have proceeded to introduce this concept. What you see on the screen are three fundamental developments in terms of technology. Started with broadcasting, which still continues, telecommunications, which is still there, and computing, which continues still further. Friends, what I am trying to say here is that we have today convergence of technologies, and your mobile handset is the best example that how all the three, broadcasting, telecommunications and computing, have joined together to provide a converged platform. And today the mobile technology could not be distinguished, could not be separated. You cannot separate broadcasting from telecommunication, telecommunication from your internet and computing. We have also an equal development today. We had Web 1.0. Web 1.0 was basically about publishing personal websites and uploading, no question of downloading, and therefore you used Web 1.0 as a consumer. Those are the old days. We also passed through a stage called Web 2.0 where participation is possible, and Wikipedia is the best example of Web 2.0. You might be doing blogging, you use wikis and so on and so forth. You also are in a position to upload besides downloading, and therefore you are not only a consumer but also you are a consumer plus producer. So consumer and producer put together could be called a prosumer. So today's learner is a prosumer, one who is consuming, one who is also producing and contributing. As you see on your screen, we have gone beyond Web 2.0, beyond Web 1.0 to what is called a Web 3.0. This is a live situation that through a 3D model that one could learn in immersing technology-enabled immersing environment, that you are within, surrounded by technology, you live in technology, of course virtually. You are not sitting on a table and surrounded by technology. That's not what is called an immersion. You get into your online website and online study, and you get immersed into what is called a 3D model. That all possibilities are there which will be contributing to your learning. And as I said, today people use Avatar software to develop what is called a 3D model of learning. Therefore, friends, what you see on your screen is online learning finally. In online learning, there is collaborative, one has to study online. There is synchronous, asynchronous communication. That one has to study by oneself, because after all studying is by oneself. You study for yourself, I study for myself. You don't study for me, I don't study for you. So it is, studying is an individual activity, but there is a need that we all join together in collaborative learning, and online learning provides that facilitation, that platform. There is a student-student and student-tutor interaction, and interactivity is very important component of online learning. Any online learning platform must provide for interaction. There is both synchronous and asynchronous communication. I'll talk about that, and there will be programs, courses in this program which we'll be talking about in detail. There is an instant feedback, and there is a intelligent flexible feedback. So as you see on the bracket Online learning, interaction, mentoring, collaboration, knowledge construction and negotiation, assignments, evaluation, feedback, and final degree or certification, digital degree, all are possible online. Therefore, friends, today what you see on the screen is the reality today, that if anyone is thinking of exclusively presenting any teaching learning strategy through only one methodology, one has a limitation. If the face-to-face teaching and learning is just lecture based and discussion and assignments, it has its own limitations, and therefore what is important is that we get into a serious design, an eclectic design of blended learning that you see on your screen. Face-to-face learning, self-paced learning with guided mentoring, and online collaborative learning. These three are important, and these three would be possible in an online context provided the online teaching learning environment and design includes a face-to-face interaction, as I will be presenting a case study in postgraduate diploma in e-learning, which we provided a blended learning environment. I will talk about that detail in another program. So friends, what is important today is that how online learning is designed. These four components, they contribute to designing an e-learning system or online learning system. The learning management system that you have to develop today, the open source platform, the model is used by the largest number of users today. There are many other platforms available. One can still contribute to a proprietary platform. I am not advertising, but still the most powerful platform today, the WebCity and Blackboard. As you know, the WebCity and Blackboard have merged together to be one powerful company, but this is a proprietary software that you have to pay for that. But in open source you do not pay, and therefore it is better that we design ourselves, we redesign the Moodle platform that is available, and the MOOC platform, edX and Coursera and such other platforms are also being modified to develop one's own MOOC course free of cost. And therefore it is important that we select a learning management system. We also proceed to design, and design teaching learning and instructional design is very important. 3, collaboration is very important, and collaboration and meme making is very important, and finally assessment and evaluation in e-learning is very important. So for these 4 components need to be designed in an e-learning platform, as we need to design such components, equivalent components in a face-to-face situation. So friends, in an e-learning or online learning context, especially in online learning context, there is a self-paced learning online, self-paced learning offline, group learning synchronous, and group learning asynchronous. These 4 simple fundamental aspects need to be designed in an online program. Self-paced learning online, that you study online resources that are available, but you are online, you are connected to internet. Self-paced learning offline, that you can download the resources that are available, including open educational resources available, and you can study at any point of time, you are free. Group based learning synchronous, that when in a chat mode you are joining together and you are synchronous, you are in the real time at the same point of time interacting with each other. And finally group based learning asynchronous, like for instance in a discussion forum, an offline discussion forum, or like an email. You send an email, I take time to reflect and send back, and you respond, we take time. So therefore friends, all these 4 components are very important. I must argue by simply saying that research is telling us that offline contributes significantly to teaching and learning online, because in offline one gets into what is space, what is called reflection, that one gets space to reflect on what has been presented, what is being learned, and so on and so forth, and makes of one's own mind to contribute next. So therefore friends, the offline and online need to be very judiciously used. That again the same PowerPoint in a tabular form that you see, that these 4 components need to be judiciously designed and combined together, blended together, best such that most effective learning takes place. So friends, that you see on the screen, that 2 important aspects that we have already seen, and these 2 will be presented in 2 different programs in this series. Synchronous learning, synchronous conferencing, text, charting, whiteboards. There is an instant communication and instant clarification on the spot, then and there, real time. There is an asynchronous conferencing, that online discussion forums, emails, which allow, as you see on your screen, which allow you to reflect or allow the learners to reflect, and therefore an in-depth dialogue and critical thinking is possible. So both asynchronous and synchronous are needed in designing an online learning platform. So the e-learning aspects that you see on the screen, that a computer screen, or it could be a mobile screen, your mobile or a tablet for instance, that all aspects are possible online. That the course content is made available, which could also be dynamic. The learner support, learner tutor interaction is available. Additional resources are available through World Wide Web, www, the student to student support, student to tutor support, self-support, because a lot of tools are available for oneself to support oneself. There is no need for others, that one can engage by oneself to learn how to best use these tools to support oneself, and other materials are available. All these are possible, including online collaboration are possible, which will be contributing to teaching, learning, and finally a digital degree. Friends, what you see next is social networking and social technologies. These social networking tools and social technologies are facilitating more online learning at a distance. What I am trying to say is that the social networking is an integral part of life. You have been using your, for instance, your Facebook, your Twitter, and such other technologies that are platforms that are available today. The social networking contributes, which is distributed and which is contributing to participation in a large scale, which is also collaborative and which is open and which is student centered, because student has control over the social network communication, which is constructivist, that we had seen in the program and will be discussing much later in another program, which is constructivist, simply means that one can best use that based on one's own interest, one's own ability, and one's own pace. These three are very important ingredients insofar as technology use is concerned, and therefore finally social learning is possible. So therefore friends, social software, open education resources, and social networking sites, these must be significantly considered to be integrated into teaching and learning, and more particularly in online learning, which we are not doing, because our teachers are not ready to use this. The students are extensively using this, and the education system is almost not ready to integrate these, because these need to be integrated into the education system systematically. The system must provide this. If the university decides, I worked for instance in another university as a director of flexible learning, where blended learning in the Australian model was the case. All these ingredients, for instance, learner support was provided by exclusively through a Facebook platform. This is very important, that the university decides that all professors, all teachers would be joining together to use these technologies. It will be a marvelous experience. I am sure this will increase the experience of learning, even if one is not teaching online, even if one is teaching within the campus face to face. These technologies integrated to teaching and learning would further enhance teaching and learning. Your right hand side that you see, the technologies that are available today is fantastic. Blogs, wikis, mblogs, and so on and so forth, and communication over internet protocol, text, video, and voice. They therefore are all joining together. Your cell phone, PDA, computers, they are all in a cloud computing environment. They are all talking to each other. Earlier they were not, and therefore whatever instrumentality you have, be sure that in a cloud computing you can join together to others almost free of cost today. So therefore, I am not talking about companies which are providing free of cost today. What it simply means is that almost free of cost with social technologies, social networks, and open source software. I repeat, social technologies, social networks, and open source software and open education resources. So friends, all these four, they can be used within the classroom in face-to-face teaching. They could also equally, and in fact they are extremely essential in an online teaching learning context. So friends, what you see on your screen is, left hand side is information technology. This was a generation 1 or generation 2. Information technology, makes things available. Your right hand side is communication technology, which facilitates interaction, and in between, the generation 5 today is social technology. Social technology combines both IT and CT, therefore ICT vis-a-vis social technologies and social networks. This is the order of the day. Imagine and think of a situation: ICT, information technology, communication technology, therefore information communication technology immersed in a social learning and social technology environment. That is the order of the day, teaching and learning, and therefore quality teaching in colleges, schools and universities today elsewhere, including some of the finer examples that we have in this country, in India, are best examples to tell that how we must integrate information technology, communication technology and social technologies. Friends, I will take you to simplify a very complex presentation that you see on your screen, that how learning takes place, and therefore how best we can design online learning such that we can effectively contribute as facilitator to students' learning, and students can achieve the best learning that they can achieve as per their ability. What you see on your screen, that how a teaching learning takes place. So what you see is that learning starts with observation, proceeds with meaning questioning, that one questions. When one sees anything, one starts questioning. It's obvious that one starts questioning. So one starts questioning, either one depends on outside information to learn, that somebody is a teacher to tell that this means that, so on and so forth, or one can also make one's own meaning. But in either case, one individually reflecting on that or teacher contributing to that, in either case one makes a meaning. If one doesn't make a meaning, one is simply saying that I am cramming the text and reproducing in the examination and get a pass mark. That's all. And today there are many who are cramming, who are remembering and reproducing in the exam and get 100 out of 100. I am not pleading that case. What I am simply saying is that if one simply remembers without understanding, without making a meaning, one is simply reproducing, meaning thereby in future one will be helpless if a situation in life comes, because one cannot really interpret and deal with that. Therefore, friends, what I am simply saying is that we have to go beyond this meaning making and facilitate students to validate in real context. What today's teaching learning, including face-to-face, most importantly, the best drawback for face-to-face teaching today is that we are lecturing, giving examples of where it will be applied. We are simply not applying. We are not providing activities and context to students to apply. In my Fulbright presentation, when I was a Fulbright scholar, when I was teaching a semester, I was just talking only for 10 minutes. And the rest of the time, we were designing the how best we must apply. If you can, there is an American saying that if you cannot apply, don't speak, shut up your mouth. And if you can speak, you must be very sure that you would be in a position to apply yourself and show others that how best, and engage your students in application. Therefore, friends, we must provide situations to students to validate. And once we do that, the next step is appropriating, that the students will be appropriating that in their own cognitive structure. जिसको उर्दू में कहते हैं मेरे जहन में चला गया. This is what is called, I cannot find an English equivalent to जहन. मेरे जहन में चला गया. This gets into me, that I am this. This is what is called I appropriate. Unless I apply and try myself, I cannot appropriate. I will simply reproduce. This is where creativity starts. And therefore, our teaching learning is not creative, I am very sorry to say. And if it does happen, finally, transformative learning takes place. That an individual all the time is changing. But this individual is changing for sure, changing for quality. The other individual is simply changing. The choice is yours. So as teachers, we must provide the occasions. This is a very eclectic interpretation, but that is one interpretation. The second interpretation is in between that you see here, that I am putting the arrow, that those who will be questioning and will not make much meaning, they will call surface learners. They will simply reproduce in life. They would simply say, let me simply pass the examination, that's all. They will reproduce. Those who would be creating their own meaning, they will defy the meaning given in the textbook, defy the meaning provided by the teacher, they will create their own meaning. And they are right. The teacher may not be right. Teacher may be less right. But they are more right If they are so, this is what is called deep learners. Bill Gates dropped out of school but became a deep learner and becoming an innovator. There are plenty of examples that those who would be depending on their own voice and creating alternatives, they are creators, they are innovators, they are leaders, they would be contributing to deep learning. But unfortunately, our examination system is largely based on surface learning, is not facilitating deep learning. What it is doing is in between. This is called strategic learning. That you understand, strategically reproduce, don't create. You understand, strategically reproduce, but don't create. Creativity and innovation is not encouraged. What is encouraged is strategic reproduction. That students are so intelligent that you give them any question, they will provide an answer. This is what is called a strategic reproduction, even if they do not know how to extend that further in future in their life to do a research. So therefore, friends, in the third column, therefore as teachers, what we need to do, we need to go beyond memorization, and gradually what facilitates is reflection. In this presentation, a collective presentation, friends, my stress is that what facilitates learning is reflection, that we must give space to students to reflect between activities, between teaching and learning, and we must facilitate their reflection. This is where I will be talking later, metacognition comes in. What is metacognition? This is facilitation of learning. If you go on teaching your students, they hardly learn, they learn less. If you facilitate to your students, they learn more. How? This is what is called metacognition. This is what is called facilitation. This is what is called reflection, that you facilitate them to reflect. What is metacognition? Metacognition is helping students to identify their own ability, because everybody has the ability, helping students to identify their own ability and put that ability to the best, and therefore one learns the most. We are teaching them to remember, to understand. We are not facilitating them to find out their own ability and use that. If we can do that, this is what is called metacognition. If we do that, students would become creative, innovative students, and they would become deep learners. So friends, what we will be talking about in different presentations in the series of programs, I am just touching upon that behaviorism and constructivism, these two have been very significantly contributing to designing online learning courses and online learning activities. On the left hand side, you see the behavioristic, and right hand side constructivist. Behaviorism would say instruct, constructivist would say facilitate them to construct. Don't instruct, facilitate them to construct. Behaviorist will be too abstract. You explain in much language with blackboard, with models, all abstract things. Constructivism simply says you concretize. If you do not concretize, I do not understand, I do not learn. If you explain me, I don't understand. There is a Chinese proverb, no? I learn, I do, therefore I learn. This is the final dictum. I do, therefore I learn. Not that in abstract way we do not learn, but we learn the most when we do, when we apply. So therefore, behaviorism and constructivism could be put together. Say for instance, behaviorism would talk about master learning and constructivism would talk about experiential learning. One must go through the experience. But behaviorist would say, no, you mastered this 100 out of 100. No, that's not possible. Even if I do not get 100 out of 100, but I experience little, my learning is much more than somebody who has mastered it. So friends, this behavioristic and constructivist we will discuss later in two of the programs. Video programs, presentations, but for the time being, these two need to be studied to combine together to develop an eclectic model for online learning. I will also be talking about in a later program about connectivism, George Siemens' model of connectivism, that you connect at the right time, the right content with the right people, with the right objective, with the right intention, with the right context, and with right process, and finally with the right outcome. That contributes the best of the learning. That what is that right? I'll be talking about this in one of the presentations, that how best to connect through social networks, connect through information that is already available, how best to connect to get the best benefit that the student can get. Both the teachers and students get the best out of that. So that simply means this lecturing within the classroom, we should come out of it and facilitate students to best put in the resources that are there to connect to the best and to the best advantage to oneself that one can best learn. I will be touching upon two important theories that contribute to online learning. Robert Garrison and Terry Anderson and Archer, they joined together to develop what is called a community of inquiry. That in online learning, that we are a community of practitioners, we are a community of learners, and as a community we must be engaging ourselves in inquiry. Unless we inquire, unless we engage together in inquiry, meaning making, teaching learning will be much less qualitative, much less effective than what we will do in a community of inquiry. And therefore, in computer conferencing, the higher social and teaching presence, the social presence as well as teaching presence by the teacher and social presence by the context that we design what is called a learning environment. So, the teaching presence and the social presence, if they can be enriched and designed properly, that will contribute. This is a very complex learning theory, online learning, and therefore we need to design. It's not an online learning that you provide a discussion forum, provide PDF materials and so on and so forth. You need to design it seriously, and this design seriousness, I am highlighting again, this design seriousness would contribute to the quality of teaching learning online. Terry Anderson, who is a good friend who is teaching in Athabasca University and the postgraduate diploma in e-learning that I will be presenting a case study, we got a full copyright of his online learning resources, which we presented free of cost in our online program. Thanks to Professor Terry Anderson, who has been advocating with Rory McGreal the open education movement in this country. So friends, this Terry Anderson's equivalence theory, equivalency interaction theory that you see on the screen is very important, because knowledge, content and interaction are very important. Interaction with content, interaction with the students, interaction with the teacher, interaction with the technology and interaction with oneself. These need to be designed properly in an online teaching learning environment. So, what you see on your screen is a learner, content, teacher interaction and learner, content, teacher linkage, learner content and learner interaction. These two need to be designed, and just go through his theory. You Google Terry Anderson, you get free the resources, his entire book, and you study how best that you can design. This is one of the finest models available in the world today, and many are applying this. If I extend this, as you see on the screen, how a community of inquiry could be designed. On the one hand, left hand side, a social presence need to be designed, gender, attitude, motivation, language, culture and so on and so forth. All these form part even in a classroom, in a face-to-face context and more so online. These need to be taken into consideration very importantly and designed properly. Right hand side, the cognitive presence, the students bring in their individual differences, even twins are not the same, even if they are sitting in the classroom, but we teachers assume that all are the same, we teach in equal wavelength, which is totally wrong. And therefore, in online learning, that when students bring in diversified cognitive structure, the teacher must be in a position to understand each teacher's cognitive structure and facilitate one's own learning, even if there are common teaching elements available. And below you see the teaching presence, that the structure and the process of teaching learning, the resources, assessment strategies and so on and so forth. So friends, as you see that social and cognitive join together, that supporting discourse, cognitive and teaching joining together, selection of the content, and social presence will be joining together with teaching presence, setting the climate. What you see that in a cloud computing, personalized learning environments are very important, how best they could be designed. These four elements would be facilitating in online learning: Wiki, which is a collaborative tool; blogging, which is a personal reflection tool; Facebook, which will be facilitating social interaction, and so on and so forth. What you see on the screen today, friends, I must insist that the blogs and wikis, they need to be joining together properly, built into in the online learning platform. A blog which provides for individual reflection, and a wiki which provides for collective or group reflection. So reflection is very important, as I have already said, and individual reflection through blog and collective reflection through wiki can join together And that is where one's own construct of one's own individual construction of meaning and the negotiation of meaning together with the tutor and with the students, fellow students, would be very important. Here is a presentation that you can study. The reference is given there, that how collaboration online and in meaning making is possible, how this could be facilitated by the online tutor. What I am simply arguing in the case here is that this is a Fulbright work that I did for my presentation in the US. What I am simply arguing in the case is that even if you are teaching online and learning online, you are an offline guy. You are sitting at your home, you are on desk, in a workplace and anywhere, and you are studying online. And therefore, a congruence between offline and online is very important, and therefore representation, a surrogate representation of the work environment online is very important. If it is not done, you are simply teaching and learning and cramming it. There must be an application of the context and the work environment online. I repeat, there must be congruence between the offline and the online situation. If the congruence is not there, the learning is less effective. So friends, finally, what I am showing on the screen is that how individual meaning making is possible, how collaboration online is possible. This is as an eclectic representation that how best you can design, study it carefully when you find time, that how best this can be combined together to best achieve individual construction of meaning, one's own meaning, maybe a meaning which is largely common to the meaning of other students and the teacher, but there must be some distinction in one's own individual meaning, and how joining together with the tutor and the students online, which is not much possible in face-to-face situation, because this allows reflection, that there is an offline asynchronous communication which allows reflection and negotiation of meaning online. What I am showing you on the screen is one of the finest work that is available, that this use social technologies and social networks, not an online learning platform. This is a wiki platform that my mentor for my Fulbright work that I did, this is one of the best models available today. They have proved that this wiki platform, which brings in whole lot of social technologies, free resources and free technologies available, and in the process that you see in the process of hierarchy, finally what they are achieving is what is called a socially constructed metacognition. What does it simply mean? Metacognition, as I told you, that the students are able to understand and identify and strengthen their own ability, individual ability. I have my own ability. You as a teacher, you help me to identify my own ability and put to practice. I will do better. And if we all students are joining together, the teacher is facilitating that we all have identified our own abilities. And in a group situation, we are all joining together. You understand my ability, I understand your ability. What an enriching learning takes place, friends. This is what is called a socially mediated metacognition. I do hope that we'll be able to achieve this in future. And friends, I must simply conclude by saying that this is a very brief introduction to online learning, and online learning which takes place online and which uses whole lot of social technology, social platforms, social software, open source technology, open education resources, as also in a blended learning context. This online can be joined together in a concrete face-to-face hands-on experimental workshops. All joining together would be enriching what is called a blended online course today. Thank you very much indeed.